G'day guys, I'm Brad.
I'm Hayley.
And this is our Australia trip. Now the last time you guys saw us, we were on Fraser Island. I think we've got a bit to catch up on.
Okay, so in this video we're going to do a bit of an update, so what life's been like on the road for 5 months. We'll talk about budget, upgrades we've done to the setup, where we've been, how we got here. We'll show a little bit of the travels on the way down from Fraser Island all the way to here in South Australia.
So we'll catch you up to speed in a bit, and yeah, crack on with the video.
So this is a snapshot of what the last 5 months on the road has looked like. It's crazy to think that we originally weren't even going to leave for our trip until this time of year, as we had a few family commitments on around our home on the Gold Coast and we weren't going to leave until after that. However, we were itching to get on the road, so we decided to leave in the middle of the year instead, do the Queensland coast for a couple of months, then be back home for our family things before we took off again for good.
Now I know why I never worked out before. Hello, it would always turn out bad, so bad. But every time we start a fight, we always stop in time. We both know how to be gentle, never cross the line. I feel calm when you're around, like nothing can break me.
You're alright, walking through. But how about that for an episode? The old telegraph track. It's sketchy. Not a bad life, if you do ask me. So after a few months heading up the Queensland coast, we headed back home to drop the Kedron in for a service, and we also had some upgrades done, which we'll show you now. Okay, so the most notable of the upgrades we had done while we're at Kedron, they retrofitted a couple extra solar panels on the roof. after upgrading to lithium, we just noticed if we had a few cloudy days with the 300 watts that we had on the roof originally, yeah, it just wouldn't keep up if you had a few cloudy days and you weren't really driving anywhere. So yeah, we've bumped it up to 600 watts, and that is just life-changing. We are at 100% pretty much all the time, and that has also in turn allowed us to upgrade the inverter to a 2000 watt inverter, which can safely run our microwave and run our washing machine. And when we're running that through the day when there's full sun, it barely drops the battery down at all. So we're using as much power as we can now, and it's not costing us anything. And that also means that we can stay off grid for a lot longer. So that's our main goal. And yeah, we've been able to achieve that with the solar panels and the inverter. They retrofitted some dust caps, so when we're traveling on dirt roads, we just push these caps in and it stops the dirty air going inside the battery box and inside our vent for our range hood. Along with that, just a few extra lights and extra charging points. So filming a lot, we're always like charging camera gear, and we only ever had really 2 ports on either side of our bed, so we're constantly fighting for those points when we're on 12 volt power. So they've added like a bunch of extra points, which just makes life a lot easier. So you can see here, this table just gets a workout now. We never had this here, so that's awesome. We've got these lights up here also double as a charging point. Yeah, and those are blue and white lights with a charging point. So we've got one there, we've got one there, and then we've also got 2 on either side of our bed, which there was existing lights there, but they didn't have the charging points in. So yeah, that's about it. And just one other point in the bathroom is we've got this cool little blue light under here, which is a light that Caravan are going to be fitting to their new vans with a motion sensor when you walk in. So we got Wayne to put that in. That's his favourite light in the van. So thanks to Wayne and Glenn for organising all those extra bits and pieces. And thanks to Robin and Ash and the whole service team at Caravan, because their after sales service support is awesome. And for us to just drop the van off there and have it worked on for a few weeks while we were running around just made life a lot easier when we're living in the van full time. So thanks guys, you're legends. And yeah. So while we're back home and we're getting this Caravan serviced and the upgrades done, we didn't want to waste our time, so we thought we'd better make the most of it and head over to Fraser Island for a week, which we made 2 videos on, and if you haven't seen them, click them up here because it was a great week on Fraser Island.
Okay, so we quickly realised that our plan of doing a 1-year lap of Australia was actually turning into wanting to travel like full time indefinitely. So realising that we no longer needed to fit a lap into 1 year, we actually decided to leave out the south coast of New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania and save that for later on in our trip, and we just wanted to head straight for South Australia instead. I think having both grown up on the east coast, we wanted to get somewhere completely different and also just feel a little bit further away from home. So yeah, after Fraser Island and being back home doing our family things, we got the Caravan back and we headed straight for South Australia.
Yeah. Whew. Bit of a chilly start to the morning. We're trying to make our way down to South Australia. We're trying to do it as quick as possible because you might have seen on the news there's a lot of flooding out at Western New South Wales and Victoria. So we did plan on taking our time and cruising through these parts of the state, but it's just not a wise move with the amount of water that's about. We're just trying to, I think our route has changed about 3 or 4 different times. We're just trying to do it as safely as possible because the last thing I want to do is be parked up somewhere and have floodwater come from essentially nowhere. And you know, it doesn't even need to be raining for the floodwater to come up, so it's pretty scary the way that stuff moves. So we're just being cautious. We just stayed here tonight in Binalong and we're going to head out towards Hay, but the road's now closed at Hay, so we're sort of plotting our course now a different direction and trying to make our way to South Australia as quick as possible. But it'll be interesting to see how we go with these floodwaters because we haven't even seen any water laying about yet, but we're not far away from it according to the maps and the news reports. We've dodged, I think, a majority of the floodwaters. We've just got a little bit more to go, heading up towards Tulibuck, a little town just west of Mildura. And once we get through there, we should be pretty clear, but we've driven through some pretty shocking roads. Yeah, there's a lot of water laying about on the side of the roads where it's not usually supposed to be, but we've just pulled up to a town called Jerilderie, and it's a pretty famous Ned Kelly town. I love Ned Kelly history. I know he's a pretty bad dude, but it's very interesting.
We're in Powell Street, which is apparently like the street with the most history, and this town also has the most buildings still standing that were here when Ned Kelly was raiding it, so we can actually go and see and imagine what it was like.
Yeah.
So this is a good spot to stop for lunch, I think. We'll check it out.
Sure.
You can see inside.
Wow. So where we're standing now in Jerilderie is one of the most notorious places for the Kelly gang. It's where they held up the bank, the New South Wales Bank in Jerilderie. They made off with over £2,000 worth of money and jewellery. It's the famous part in the Ned Kelly movie where Ned burns all the mortgages and deeds to the town and pens his famous Jerilderie letter where he professes his innocence and tries to justify some of the crimes he committed. He made off with a fair bit of cash, which he distributed throughout the town and shouted everyone around at the pub. And I guess that's why he was such a villain to the police, because the people in the areas that he was robbing, they essentially benefited from his crimes too. Oh no, it's not a photo. So there we have it. A quick little look around the town of Jerilderie, a very interesting place and a worthy stopover on our trip to South Australia. Bring it on. Oh dear, change of plans. It's 9 o'clock at night. I just checked the website for the flooding, like with all the flooding information, and this area is now on a watch and act or watch and alert or something. So
and they only just issued it.
Westbound on Tulibuck Bridge. And yeah, they've only just issued it in like the last hour, saying that the levels are going to rise. So we're just crossing over the bridge right now. This is the Murray River at Tulibuck, and yeah, we're just crossing over and pushing it into Victoria, because we're not going to play. We're just really going to play it safe. We're not going to take any chances. We had a really nice site there, and we're actually pulling up to do some work tomorrow, but we can't really take that chance because the water's coming up, and I don't want to be there when it floods in, because then we're stuck on the wrong side of the river. So here we are. Safe and sorry, eh? Floodwaters scare me. Floodwaters and bushfires, I don't mess with them at all. Alright, let's go and find a campsite. In darkness we find camp. Alright, well this is where we ended up last night, about 30 k's outside of Tulibuck. We're safe from the Murray River, but we are not safe from rain and wind, which there's apparently a pretty strong windy front coming up through South Australia, so we're sort of going to delay our trek into South Australia a little bit, and camp out at Pinaroo tonight on the border before making our way in once that front goes. You all right?
This is Victoria, hey.
This is Victoria.
Rainy.
Yeah. Welcome to Victoria. We're going to spend one day here. I've had enough. All right, let's get to South Australia. Oh God, the hiccups. Rain jacket's coming off, eh?
That's better. That's more like it, Victoria. What are we doing, Brad?
Freezing our butts off. No, this morning, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're in a little town on the border of South Australia and Victoria called Pinaroo. And we want to get to the Fleurieu Peninsula, which is about 2 to 3 hours away. So in an ultimate Scrooge McDuck attempt to save some coin, because we've been just punching it straight from, we've punched it from Newcastle to here pretty much in a few days. And we've sort of just been holding tight here because there's this massive cold or windy front that's been passing over us. It was just a shocking day yesterday of wind and rain, and today's supposed to be a day of really strong sustained winds, so like 60 kilometers an hour up to 100 kilometers an hour gusts. So we don't love that, and neither does the cars or the caravan. When you're towing a caravan, it's like a big bloody block you're towing behind you, and when the wind catches it, it's just like towing turns 3 ton into 5 ton. So
and we need to travel straight into the headwind today.
We're dead set, just traveling straight west into the wind. So yeah, in an attempt to save some money and improve our fuel economy, we're leaving super early. It's actually starting to get a little bit light out, which is good because I don't like driving in the dark. So yeah, make the coffees, let's go. Let's get into South Australia. What have you got?
Look at this!
Oh.
We just had the most friendly campsite neighbours. They came and knocked on the door. We don't even know them. They just came and knocked on the door and they said, "Oh, do you want a bottle of wine
yes,
for free?"
Please.
Like, yes, please. So we're actually staying in the Strathalbyn area of South Australia, and it has so many beautiful wineries around here, but we can't spend our money on every winery, so we thought we'd save ourselves for the Barossa. So we're like driving past all these wineries like, oh, we wish we could go. And also even worse for me, because I've stupidly made myself do some like month of no alcohol thing, and I literally like we're driving past them all being like, oh, I wish we could go have some wine, and then we're sitting in here this afternoon all like sad, and I was saying I don't even think I could be bothered doing this anymore, like I just want a glass of wine. And then we saw these people walk past with all their bottles of wine, and we're like, we wish we had them. And then they literally came, knocked on the door and said, "Do you want a bottle of wine?"
Yes, please.
I think that's a sign that I'm not doing my no alcohol anymore. They said that the cellar door, like it was right on closing time, and the cellar door said that
they're closed for like a few days.
Yeah, they're closed for a few days, so take these bottles home that they use for tasting, because they'll be no good after a few days. So they came to offer us some,
beautiful.
Which is so lovely.
One man's trash is another man's treasure, right?
Exactly, and it couldn't have happened on a better afternoon, because I've actually had a really bad day.
I would say really bad, but a little bit stressful. Throws a bit of a,
thanks to this thing. Do you want to explain this thing?
So this is a maxi fuse, and this is the maxi fuse for our solar in our caravan. So all our solar comes through this. So we parked up to get some groceries. I checked the battery, as I always do, just the voltage on my phone, and noticed that it wasn't getting any charge in, which is weird because it was full sun, right? So I went to the fuse box and noticed that this was all like welded up shut, like, and it was all melted and deformed. So I knew I had an issue. So yeah, what I did was I just we just rocked up at an auto electrician. There was one like a kilometre away. And I went in and I said, "Oh, I've got an issue with my caravan, can you come have a look?" Half an hour later, the thing's fixed. He explained to me that these MIDI fuses can be quite temperamental, and the contact isn't good after a while. They move a lot, they shake, they vibrate. Like, we've put this caravan through hell in the last 6 months. So yeah, this thing's deteriorated to the point where it's just melted. So it hasn't popped the fuse, it's just heated up over time through a bad connection. And yeah, until it's melted the little connection where the fuse pops when you have got a short in the system. So he's just replaced that with a MIDI fuse, which I'm told is a much better connection. He gave us spares. It was the best, and I'll put their business name at the bottom of the screen because they were just awesome. Like, they're booked out for 2 weeks, but they found the time to help us, which is awesome. So our solar's fixed and we've got a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And your alcohol ban is finishing right now because we're going to pop this bad boy. Right. Okay. 2 weeks of no alcohol. So much for that, eh? Enjoy. Oh, it tastes good.
It's good.
Oh. That wets the whistle.
The day that this video comes out, the 3rd of December, is actually our 5-month on the road anniversary, because we left on the 3rd of July, which 5 months seems like such a long time, but it's gone pretty quickly. But because it's been 5 months, we thought that we would spend some time now, we thought we would tell you some things that we've learnt as we've been travelling on the road and give you some insight into what full-time travel is actually like some tips and tricks and just insights.
Things that we wish we knew before we left.
Yeah.
You know, just the little things.
Yeah, exactly. Starting with, I guess, what we wish we knew before we left. What would you say?
So one of the things that I wish I knew, or I wish we knew before we left, is that there's only so much preparation you can do. I think that we learned more in the first month on the road than we did in the year leading up to our trip. You just learn so much on the go, and you can't be prepared for every situation that living on the road throws at you.
You just learn along the way.
Yeah.
And learn through your mistakes that you make.
Certainly, there's plenty of mistakes that we've made, and I think we've shown a lot of them on camera. A few of them sometimes we haven't had the camera in our hands, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of bad days as well as good ones.
Yeah, and something I wish we knew earlier is to be better with money at the start of our trip. At the start of our trip, we were always looking for the best campsite. You know, we might have seen a free camp that looked a bit yucky, but it was free, and we're like, well, we're not going to stay there. We're going to pay the $50 a night and stay right on the water, and that's just not sustainable. No. And we had to change out of that quick smart, but we probably did that for a month or so, and we wasted a lot of money in that first month, not only on good campsites, but just doing all the things, silly experiences that we probably didn't need to do. We've done so many island trips which were great, but we probably didn't need to do as many as what we did. And you know, if we needed something, we'd just go and buy it straight away, because that's what we were used to at home. You know, we had regular income coming in. We could just go and buy stuff when we needed it, whereas now it's we don't buy something until we really, really, really need it. And we've needed it for a month, and then we're okay, let's buy it now. Yeah, there's certainly a massive adjustment when you when you're living in a house and everything's comfortable and you've always got money coming in because you're working. That adjustment from going from both our incomes combined to just nothing and still trying to live that life that you were at home, it's just not sustainable at all. And it embarrassingly took us probably a month or 6 weeks to really figure that out. And thankfully that you are really good on your budget stuff and tracking things, because if I was doing it, we would have been out of money by now. Yeah, literally at one point, because I have a spreadsheet where I track our budget, and early on in the trip I was predicting from what we were spending each week when we would run out of money, and at one point it was we're going to run out of money by Christmas. And you know, it's now December, so if that was still the case, we would have been out of money in a few weeks. Luckily we changed our tune though, and now we have a few more months with money, but yeah, we'll get into budget more a bit later on. One thing I struggled to find information on was about how much water, how much diesel, you know, where the dump points are and how frequently you're filling up your water, diesel and emptying your dump points. So that's one thing I thought I'd add in this video. Our water tanks, we have 220 litres of shower and washing up water on the Caravan, and it probably takes us about 4 days if we're really going hard, having 2 showers, washing up twice a day. We can blow through that
water in 4 days, so using about 50 litres a day, which seems like a crazy amount, but
not really. I think a shower is usually like 20 litres.
Yeah.
Like a normal shower, but we have quick ones.
And adjusting from living in a house where you just have the shower running the whole time to living in a caravan, like we were definitely
on off
using more water at the start than what we are now. But we've also got a tank on the car which we use to top up in the tank. The tank's on the caravan, and we've got a dedicated 60-litre drinking water tank, which that is great because we struggle to burn through that 60 litres. Like, we've been here for 5 days and we've used maybe 20% of it.
Yeah, only 1/4 of it.
Yeah, so yeah, that water's good. Like 220 litres is good if you're thinking about building a caravan or wondering about how much you need to carry. That's fine. We find that's good for us, and we could stretch that out to 7 days if we needed to, or 8 days.
The only thing that will make us burn through the water is when we need to do washing.
Yeah.
But I think our washing machine uses about 20 litres a load. But it's good having the tank on the car because Brad can just go get more water and then pump it into the caravan on the days when we want to do washing. And it doesn't need to be good drinking water. Yeah,
it can just be boil water, which is what we're sort of getting used to now. We always pre-filter it too, so we've got a filter before it goes into the van, and we've also got a dedicated drinking water filter as well, which I haven't noticed the taste of tank water at all, so that's good. Definitely pre-filtering makes a massive difference. Diesel, we burn through a fair chunk of diesel having a 3-ton caravan and a V8 Land Cruiser. It's pretty thirsty, but I don't work it out strictly, but I know that we burn between 20 and 22 litres per 100 k's, and that's a trip up the Queensland coast and back. So it's a few hills, but it's pretty flat driving for the most part, and a lot of highway driving, which I think is pretty respectable. 22 litres per 100 k's, but we've got 180 litre capacity on our car, so it gets us at least 800 k's before we need to fill up. So if you're towing a big van and you're wondering how much fuel you might use, it'll obviously change depending on your tow vehicle, but a V8 Land Cruiser single cab I think is one of the thirstier things on the market. And the dump point, so we've got a Thetford, I think it's a 20 litre toilet, and if you're not careful you can fill that thing up in a couple of days, but if you're careful,
in 1 day.
Yeah, you can. If you really if you're hung out in the van and I don't know, you can't go for a little wee outside like which is one of my guilty pleasures. You can fill that thing up pretty quick. Every 3 days. And originally we started out using the Thetford stuff that you buy from the camping shop, which is like $25 a pop, and that was like burning a massive hole in our pocket. So every 2 weeks we were going through $25 bottle of toilet additive, and I've always heard about people using nappy sand or the cheap nappy sand from Woolies in their toilets. Depends on which one you get, but I always sort of brushed it off. We're spending way too much money on toilet additives, so let's give it a crack, and we've been using that for about a month now. So this is like $3. It's sodium percarbonate, 257 grams a kilo. That's what you're looking for. You only want the sodium percarbonate. So this little container, it's 2/3 empty, and we've been using it for about a month, and that's $3. So you go through not that much. We use inside the cap, there's a little measuring device, and we've sort of we put like 1.5 in the toilet with a bit of water, give it a shake to mix it up, and it does the trick. So if you're looking to save a few bob, that's not a new life hack when it comes to caravanning, but one that we were
finally jumped on the bandwagon.
Yeah, we were a bit hesitant of, so don't be. If you want to save money, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
And then just finding dump points, we haven't had an issue finding a dump point. No. There was one instance up the Cape where I went to the dump point and they hadn't had the sewerage pump out truck come, so it was literally overflowing. It was disgusting. So that's the one time I haven't been able to empty the toilet, but other than that, we've been sweet with finding dump points. They're everywhere. You find them on the way to somewhere, and we just use Wikicamps to find that. That's the easiest way.
And we only carry one cassette.
Yeah.
I know, like, it's probably good if you have a family, like with kids, to carry two.
Yeah.
But we've only needed the one. So moving on to how we plan where we're going to stay, we have a Google My Map, it's called, where we've plotted all our points of interest of things that we want to see, and as we talk to people, if they give us spots that we should go, or if we see stuff on Instagram or whatever and we save that, then we add them to our map. So we're constantly adding things to it, and then when we're heading to a certain area, we just pull up that map and have a look at the things that we want to see and where we want to stay there. And then once we've got an idea of that, then we look on Wikicamps to see what campsites are around. And now that we've learned from the start of our trip to not go for the expensive ones, now we look for the cheap ones, even if it means staying like half an hour out of where we want to be. It's cheaper to stay that distance out than pay $50 or something,
most certainly,
in a caravan park. Yeah, and then we also look at the weather and see what the weather and the wind is going to be doing, and then we kind of map out where we're going to stay, what we're going to see, what days, and we don't plan too far in advance because things are always changing, and the weather's a big thing as well. Yeah,
especially the last 5 months we've been on the road, Australia has experienced just like weather event after weather event, so it's been a bit of a mission trying to dodge all that. But if you've got the BOM app, there's always updates on there, which is good to keep you safe, which you probably would have seen when we're at Tulibuck. The Windy app and Willy Weather, so those are the three ones that we use all the time, and when we're planning and plotting.
And even like, for example, when we're coming into South Australia, it was when they were getting really strong winds and freezing cold weather, and we were staying out in a free camp, and we wanted to head into the Fleurieu Peninsula, but there's no real free camping here. So we thought, we're not going to head down there and start paying for camping again when it has this terrible weather and we're just going to be stuck inside the caravan. Instead, we'll wait out where we were at the free camp, wait out for the bad weather to pass in a few days, and then go into the Fleurieu and start paying for camping when we can actually enjoy it.
Yeah. We've just taken a brief intermission, and Hayley has updated her budget spreadsheet, so she's fully up to date for 5 months on the road now.
I feel sick. It's not good.
We'll be super honest and run through some of these figures because it's a lot more than what we expected.
Yeah, travelling at the moment is so expensive. But anyway,
the cost of living from when we planned and budgeted for this trip compared to now, there's so many variables that have changed, and obviously the cost of living is so much more now. I think the inflation rate is 6%, so you can add that on and then add a bit extra for the companies that put their margins on the products.
And like, your biggest expenses are accommodation, fuel and food, and they're the three things that have gone up astronomically in the
and you have no control over.
Few months. So we'll tell you how much I've spent in total in a minute, but first I'll run you through some little interesting stats here. So in 5 months we have spent on fuel $6,300. On accommodation we've spent just over $2,500. So that one's alright because we've gradually decreased that as the time's gone on. Groceries, we've spent almost $3,000. Bills, $330-ish, and that one we can get down lower as well because we can cancel. We've been talking about cancelling Netflix and getting rid of our Apple Music and that sort of thing. Yeah. To try and save money.
And we just don't really use it.
Yeah, there's too much other awesome entertainment outside of the caravan.
Certainly.
The categories that really pop up at you are like other expenses and one-off payments. So in like our other expenses category, that's things like toiletries, cleaning stuff, gas, needed items that just pop up. And we've spent $3,400 on that in 5 months. And then your other one-off things, like when our batteries died on the second day of our trip, you know, insurances, roadside assistance, sorting out our internet, or like our camera tragedies. We're onto our 3rd drone now. Flights back home. You know, if you're doing a long trip like this, you're probably going to be flying back home every now and then. So that, like, all these other extra things that pop up, that totaled almost $7,500. So that's a lot of money, and like things that you don't even really think of.
Yeah.
And because you just think, oh, it's a one-off, like you have that money in your savings ready for when it pops up, but they're popping up all the time. Literally every week there's something that pops up, and it's big money when it pops up.
Yeah.
Same with maintenance. Like, we've spent $3,300 on maintenance. Again, that doesn't happen every week, so you don't think of it that much, but when it does pop up,
it's a big one.
Big amount.
Like when we were back at home on the Gold Coast, we had the car in for a service, and because we went up to the Cape, we come back and we replaced all the oils and fluids in the car and the swivel hubs, and they had a complete makeover, and that was like $2,200 just right there, just for the car to be up to scratch. And those are things that you're not gonna really postpone, or you can't really kick that can down the road, because you're just gonna end up making more problems for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's gonna in turn become more expensive.
Yeah, for sure. And then I have like our enjoyment kind of categories, like things like eating out, treats, experiences. So we've actually done really well in this area, because I think we said earlier we kind of went hard at first, and then we really reined it back in when we realized we were spending so much money, and this was one of the areas we could control. So we've spent about $1,500 eating out in 5 months. About the same on treats, which is like bakery, ice cream, alcohol, that sort of thing. If we buy coffee out, which we never do anyway. And then experiences, about $1,800.
Yeah.
So I think that's all right, because we do allow money when I transfer our money from our savings each week, we allow money for enjoyment and experiences. And if we don't end up doing anything like that week, it's good, because it just rolls on to the next week and grows, so that if you do something really expensive like a whale shark swim, then you've got that money already there from the previous weeks.
Where you've saved it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and now for the grand total, how much we have spent in 5 months. It's just over $31,000.
Yeah. That is a lot of change, and it doesn't feel like you're spending it. Like, it adds up so quickly.
Yeah.
But that $31,000 for 5 months on the road, that includes everything. That is everything that we've had to pay for. There's
every
nothing,
single thing that's come out of our bank account.
Yeah, the whole kit and caboodle,
But it goes to show how crazy it is that we initially budgeted $50,000 for a year, and I think a lot of people used to say roughly the same thing. That's where we got that figure from. And now we haven't even done 6 months, and we're already well over half. Like, that's crazy.
Well over half of that. So that's a lot of money to spend in 5 months. And if you enjoy watching the videos and you get something out of the videos, consider supporting us by leaving a like on the video, subscribing, or even dropping a comment below in the comment section.
Yeah, it would really mean a lot, all those things, and they help brighten our mood on days like right now, where I've realised how much money we've spent and it's a bit of a downer. But it is good that we track it, because not only does it help us reflect on it, but it allows us to predict when we're going to run out of money and when we'll need to stop and work and top up the funds. And by you helping support our channel, it means that when we do stop for work, we won't have to stop for as long, and we'll be able to go back to video making sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Okay, something that a lot of people ask, and also what you tend to talk about when you meet fellow people doing the same thing on the road, is how you put up with each other when you're living in such a small space 24/7. You're always with each other. How do you stay married? Like,
I don't know how I do it, but I manage. definitely took probably 2 months or maybe 3 months to really get used to each other. You know, one thing that I think has been really pivotal in us staying married is always talking about our issues as well. So we obviously things build up, but we always make a note to talk about them straight away and address it with the other person.
We don't really let things build up. Like if something's annoying us or something's upsetting us, we'll talk about it really quickly and then move on, and then it's all good.
That's the best. I think that's the best advice.
Yeah.
What does my grandma say? Never go to sleep.
Yeah, without making up or something like that.
Yeah, never go to bed without making up. So never go to sleep angry at each other.
Yeah.
That's served us pretty well.
And then the other thing is like a walk does wonders.
Does, eh?
And we didn't really realise that at first. Like the first month or two, we were just always doing the same thing. And I guess I would get annoyed at you more often than usual. And then once we realised that like we could go for a walk, you would go for a run, do your own thing for a little bit. It just like changes the mood completely, hey?
Yeah.
And you just come back so refreshed.
Yeah, make time for yourself.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
And we both understand when you want to go for a walk, or if I want to go for a fish, like we understand that's our own time. So and it always benefits in us coming back closer.
Yeah, for sure. But I think overall, like, I think we're doing pretty well. I don't think everyone could, you know, be around each other this often and this close. And I think majority of the time we're having fun and getting along. So props to us.
Yeah, good on us.
Okay, so our plans for the next few months and into next year.
Yep.
Well, we're in South Australia now, and we're going to spend a few months here, like over Christmas and into the new year. Just really taking our time and seeing everything that we want to see.
Yeah, there's plenty of peninsulas here to explore, and the beaches and stuff have blown us away so far. And so after we've finished exploring South Australia, we'll look for a bit of work to top up the savings and then decide on how we get to Western Australia.
Yeah, because it will depend on when we need to stop for work and then how long we need to work for, and then we'll decide whether we're going to go up through the middle from South Australia or if we're going to go across into WA.
Yeah. It's exciting. We don't really know where we're going or what we're doing.
But we do know that we want to spend like at least a year in WA. So we will be heading over there at some stage next year, and then we'll be there for a while.
Right, well that pretty much wraps up our 5 months on the road update travelling to South Australia video mashup. I appreciate you guys watching and tuning in for this episode, and I'd really like if you could give it a thumbs up or leave a comment down below, even subscribe if you want to. Thanks guys, bye.